coming up with ideas for strategy and content creation can be overwhelming and hard. Today, we're talking to Erica Johnson, the founder of ePartners Marketing, who has helped hundreds of women create and design businesses that they love and have thrived through systems of content creation. But we are also going to hear about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, being a single mother, and pushing through even the darkest of times. During COVID, she thought her business was going to be over, that she'd have to go back to the 9-to-5 workforce. And somehow, with a lot of grit and a lot of faith, she was able to push through. And we are going to dive into her story right now. Grab a pen and paper. We're sharing resources of what can help maximize your time. And I know you're going to love all of the tools that she shares. Let's dive in. So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. Welcome back, everyone. Today we are talking about creating content in a pinch. And I'm so excited because our guest today, Erica Johnson, is the founder of ePartners Marketing, and she is a content guru and is going to share all of her tips and tricks with us, but also tell us about her journey of how she started this business and the passion that she found in helping others create their vision in creating content. Thank you so much for being here today, Erica.
Thanks so much for having me, Camille.
So tell us about you. I want to hear about your family, your background, and how I know that you're a lover of fashion and how that morphed into what you're doing now.
Sure. So in my family, I have me and my daughter, Isabella. I also have my fiance. I was raised in a very entrepreneurial family. I have my mom is an entrepreneur. My father's an entrepreneur. My older brother's an entrepreneur. My younger brother, even though he's still a child, he's an entrepreneur. His mom's an entrepreneur. So entrepreneurship's been a huge part of our life. Even my mom's parents, they were entrepreneurs. So yeah, it's kind of like a hereditary thing. But entrepreneurship wasn't always my goal. I really wanted to work in fashion, as you mentioned, and I wanted to be a fashion buyer. I wanted to be a fashion designer, but I listened to my parents and went to business school. And so I never went to fashion school. But while I was in college, I did go to or worked at quite a few different retail stores, notably Express and Nordstrom were the last two places that I worked. And that I had an internship with Nordstrom in which I was trying to become a buyer. So it was down in South Florida and I loved every second of it, but it was a management conflict. That's the only reason I didn't stay on with the company. But then after that, I realized, retail at this level just wasn't for me. Like they were working long hours. They were working like 12-hour shifts. And in my mind, I was like, okay, we're selling suits. We're not delivering babies. Like there's no reason for me to be on a sales floor that long. So that's when I walked away from fashion retail. I haven't looked back. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I've never wanted to have my own boutique or anything, but it was just like that experience. I just decided to walk away from it. And then coming back to how I started my own business. So I studied marketing in school. So I finished my degree after my internship. Then I worked at a ad agency, but it was based on a newspaper that was going digital. So that was a new experience because they were all embracing digital marketing, and me being fresh out of college, they thought they knew everything. And I tried to come with my ideas and it kind of butted heads a little bit. But then my next job, they were so about digital marketing. They didn't care about print. They didn't care about magazine ads or newspaper ads or anything like that, or even TV commercials. So that gave me a lot of experience with digital ads. Then I've worked at a smaller agency than that, way smaller than that one. But it was digital marketing. I started my own business shortly after because I realized at those gigs, I was always managing the ads. I was always managing the campaigns. And especially at the second job in digital marketing, the clients would say, oh, can you be my social media manager? Oh, can you help me outside of this? Because, the big company I was working for, they didn't like how they were being treated. They didn't like being on queues forever. So that's when I realized, okay, people really need this. Entrepreneurs really need this. They really need that help. But then that last gig where I was managing Facebook ads and Google ads, I realized I hate looking at these reports. I just hated it. And I think I think when people are in marketing school, they hear the term analyst and they think, I want to be an analyst. I want to be an account manager. But then when they're actually an analyst or an account manager, it sucks. So that's what happened. I hated it. I hated calling the customers and telling them about how many of their ads, the KPIs on their ads. I hated it. I hated it so much. So I always wanted to design. Even from that first job I had of college, I remember the graphic designer that got to make all the ads pretty in the newspaper, and she got to place the newspaper before it got printed. And I wanted to learn so bad, but I didn't know where to start. I was intimidated by Photoshop. I was intimidated by Illustrator and InDesign. I had no clue where to start. But when I left that big agency, one of the reasons why I knew design could be for me was we had one campaign where we were supposed to have a landing page for the Facebook ad and the ad creative and the text and all that good stuff. And the designer that was on the team was a very small but mighty. Oh, my nail came up. It was a very small but mighty team. And he was too busy. And they were like, oh, well, Erica, you just do it. You just design it. It was like the ad lady doing the design. That never happened. So, that was my experience. And that's why I realized, okay, I love this. I love making the website. I love making the ad creative. I love making the copy. And at the previous job before that, I actually did get experience helping people with small website changes. And outside of work, I had my own blog, my own mommy blog. And then I started blogging about what I was doing at work. So that's how I really got into design. I self-taught design. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of tutorials along the way from YouTube University and a lot of trial and error, but yeah, basically self-taught, not formally taught design at all. And then when I started my agency, more people ask me about design than ask me about marketing. And now it's flip-flop. More people want the marketing than the design, but I still do both. And then I brought a PR girl on as a publicist. Her name's Anaya. She's great. Brought her on in 2019 because my customers started asking about PR. They didn't just want marketing. They didn't just want design. They wanted that public relations as well. So she's the publicist on my team. And since then, I also know another lady that's also a publicist. Her name's Gabby. So Gabby specializes in the written publications like articles and news coverage that's written, whereas Anaya does more event activations. Now, Anaya can also pitch you and she gets you prepared for media coverage. So that's her strong points when it comes to PR. I'm good at getting people on podcasts, believe it or not. But yeah, they're the two official publicists. They both studied PR. I have a PR certification, but they both actually studied it in school and had the years of experience. So that's my business. And with my daughter, she's 7 years old. And that was one reason why I had to leave those two corporate environments. They weren't very flexible with my schedule as a mother. Even though some of my superiors were mothers as well, some of them were single moms like I am, they were not understanding. And that's what corporate does to people. I'm not saying that all mothers can't survive in corporate, because we know plenty of women that are successful in corporate. But for me, with my lifestyle and at the time, it just wasn't for me.
That's really fascinating. So tell me about that transition where you started your own business with the design and marketing. It sounds like it kind of happened by accident that you realized it wasn't so much numbers for you. It was more the design process and really that creative sector. So how long was that of transitioning into that role? Was it that you thought, man, this is my purpose. This is where I feel this is my wheelhouse.
So yeah, destiny kind of taught it to me. God and destiny. They hit me like a freight train. That job at the really big agency came to an end when me and a manager just came to an impasse, which is fine. They said tardiness. I know it wasn't just tardiness. The lady just didn't like me. And it was funny because after I got let go, a few months later, she got let go, but in a more elaborate way than I did. And there were a lot of people that I was on the team with, unfortunately, they got let go as well. But I know it's cliche when people say, oh, well, that was the best thing that happened. But it really was. I just was not happy. I felt like I was driving to jail every day. I was dropping my daughter off at daycare, not feeling it. I admit, even when I did entrepreneurship for those few months before I got the other gig, actually, it wasn't even a few months. It was maybe a good month. So I tried to do it on my own, but I found an agency and worked underneath them for a short time as well. Because when I did that whole project with the landing page and the copy and all that, I guess they could sense also that it's like, she's not really into the ads. So it was cool. Like, I know at the time, back in 2016, I could have been devastated, but it all worked out for the better good. And there was one stint listening to my parents in which I was a brick and mortar teacher. And that was between 2017, 2018. So I said, I wanted to share this story, this candid story, to share with your audience that it wasn't a smooth road for me in entrepreneurship. It was definitely like this. It was very slow, very much like a tortoise, where I wasn't like a rabbit. I wasn't one of those 6 months to 6-figure stories. I wasn't one of those 1 year to 6-figure stories. Nothing wrong with those stories. Those are great. It's just that wasn't my story. My story was definitely slow and steady. My first few years in entrepreneurship was like a long vacation, except when I was a brick and mortar teacher. And that also taught me about, it was like, okay, can I do this? And the answer is no. I did it for the entire year, the entire school year, every single day. I never missed a day. But it was like, okay, this is just not for me. The children were great. It's just, it was 4 different grade levels, and the children had some behavioral issues. And me being a first-time teacher, I wasn't really equipped. But I also taught with VIP Kid as well, so the kids in China. But coming back to your question, the transition, it was definitely a bumpy one. The second time around, so the first time around, freedom. It was like a long vacation. I can go out to eat. I can have lunch with my friends. I can take a nap whenever I want to. But after teaching at the brick and mortar that 1 year, I had to really, sit myself down and say, okay, I don't want to go back to another job. I don't want to go back to being a teacher. I don't want to get my certification with where I live to be a public school teacher, which I could have done, but it was like, I don't want to. So I was like, okay, I had a very pivotal decision. Am I going to get serious about promoting my business, or am I going to go apply for jobs? And I made the decision to get serious about my business. And it's been better ever since. 2018 winter was good. 2019 was great. 2020, believe it or not, with the pandemic in March, I thought I had to close my doors. I was convinced that everyone's going to do their own social media. No one's going to have one PR. So yeah, those first 3 months were rough for me. Mm-hmm. I started applying everywhere. I had my homegirl/client write a review for me on LinkedIn. I wrote a review for her, and we were sending out our resumes everywhere because we were like, oh, we have to, stay at jobs. We have to get jobs, whatever. But then a client came into my life, and it was funny because I had actually known her before. So a retainer client came into my life. And then a few months after that, she introduced me to another one of my retainer clients that I have now. So they were pivotal to me bouncing back. And it gave me that confidence that, okay, what I do is good and people do want this. And don't get me wrong, when the pandemic first happened, I never had a doubt that people wouldn't want design, because people always want website design. But it was that social media marketing PR piece. We had a lot of deals, Camille, that were held up in PR pieces, where if they didn't have a live event, there was no publicity for the event. There was no need to promote the event. So we lost a lot of money, but we made a lot of money too. So that's what I would say. It definitely gave me that push to bounce back. And the whole time I was a brick and mortar teacher and a VIP Kid teacher, I still had a la carte design I did, and I still design websites. So that was a crazy 2017 to 2018 was a crazy time, but I felt like it taught me, okay, well, what is my real limit? I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we think, oh, we can only work this much. And we think that's our limit. But really our limit's like this much more. And not that you want to push yourself like that, because I believe in self-care. I believe in boundaries. I believe in all that. But yeah, that's what I would say. That was the transition for me. It was a bumpy one. I got hit with reality. When you're your own business owner, you have to have a routine. You have to have a schedule. It's not just, going out to eat and, visiting with your friends. You really have to be serious. Business is very serious.
Yeah, it sounds like that is a transition that everyone needs to go through, is really taking their business seriously and transitioning into that. So that leads me perfectly into the next question is, what are the systems and routines that you were able to establish that allowed you to maximize your time?
I love this question. One routine that was vital was the morning routine. I know that's so cliche. If you go on YouTube and Pinterest, everyone has their morning routine. But finding the morning routine that worked for me was pivotal. And I admit, I don't always stick to it. But when I do, it makes a difference. My day is so much better. So affirmations, prayers, super important. I don't really meditate and do yoga. I want to. I just don't. Working out is pivotal, 15 to 30 minutes. If I can't get 15 minutes in, 5 to 10 minutes, or just dancing is cool. I try to do it. It doesn't happen every day. I'm human. But another good habit was brain dumping. Brain dumping because as entrepreneurs, we have so many ideas. I have so many ideas. So I had to buy even more journals, having a lot of different little journals. I have big ones, small ones, but having them so I could just write down. I don't even do really to-do lists. I'm one of the rare Virgos that doesn't do to-do list, because I know Virgos are notorious for being super organized, controlling, and having to-do lists. I don't like to-do lists. I just like being able to brain dump and, bullet journal. And I do plan as well. Planning did make a difference in my business as well. I don't plan as much as I should, but I do it digitally too. I'll admit that. I do like digitally planning. So that's the routines that have made a difference for me.
Have you been thinking about trying to discover your why and maybe defining your purpose a little more clearly? Well, I created a free 5-day email sequence that helps you do just that. It helps you dive into who you are, what your special talents are, and even pushes you a little bit out of your comfort zone with asking questions of people that are close to you. So go to callmeceopodcast.com to access that. And I have a little sneak peek of something up and coming about how to become a virtual assistant. So if that is something that you would think you might want to do in the future, stay tuned, get subscribed to the newsletter so you can hear about all the details, because we will have special discounts for those who are subscribed to our email list. You can go there and find more information at callmeceopodcast.com or camillewalker.co. So what is it that you use as far as, do you time block? Like when you actually get down to your working hours, what does that look like for your site designing and also your marketing?
Yes, I try to time block. It doesn't always work out. Like I have a whole chunk where clients are not supposed to contact me because my child's in school, and with her being home with me, she's only in first grade. So I have to go over and make sure she's on task. I have to make sure the workbook's open. I have to make sure is she looking at the teacher and she interacting with the kids and the teacher, because it's all virtual. So I try my best to time block, but some clients don't respect it or don't, just ignore it. And I have to set up those boundaries, but I try my best to time block. I want to get to the point where like a certain day of the week, I can do a certain thing, like one day design, one day content creation. Sundays used to be my content planning and content creation day. Like I know you were asking me in another question before. So that's when I used to do, sorry, I'm looking at it like there's 7 days on a week and Sundays over here and Saturdays over there. But anyways, yeah, that's what I used to do. And then I learned from other gurus, it's like, if you plan the content on a Thursday and a Friday for the following week, it's better. And I was like, And then I tried it a few times. And on my calendar, I do have Friday blocked off where people aren't supposed to be able to do consultations. And I did actually pick, now I admit when it comes to the consultations for my clients, it's supposed to be Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And same thing with my podcast recordings. For my podcast, I like to be Tuesdays or Wednesdays. But for other people's podcasts, I'll go on a Friday or a Monday or a Thursday. But for my podcast, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That way I can give them my full attention and it's not so back to back with meetings with clients.
Oh, that sounds really good. I found that too. If I set up specific hours for my own creation that I can count on, it helps a lot. One tool that I love to use is Calendly, because then I can set up my own availability and send that to other people. So you really save time with the back and forth. And that seems like that helps a lot. Now, your specialty that you talk about on your podcast is actual content creation. And I know that we have many business owners, content creators that are listening to this podcast right now. What are some time-saving hacks or tools that you use to help you to create awesome content?
That's an amazing question. I love, love, love Canva. And with the pro account, you can resize posts. So if you make a really cute post for Instagram, or if you have a video for Instagram, the feed, you can resize it for Instagram stories, which can save you a lot of time. And also you can resize it for Pinterest, which saves you a lot of time. So you can like bulk create all your pins, bulk create all your Instagram posts for the month, bulk create all of your stories for the month even. And the cool thing about Canva is it's not just pictures and text posts. I think a lot of people don't know about the video capabilities, but it does have that. So that's a good thing for people up there don't want to fiddle with different editing software for video. They can take their snippets, just like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone or anyone like that, or even Jasmine Star or Sunny Dulu, whatever her last name is, or Jenna Kutcher. Like I'm just name dropping at this point, but they have on their team, those people do it for them. But if you're just starting out, or if you are looking to scale and you're like, well, what does the VA need to do? Or what does the social media manager need to be able to do? Definitely make sure that they have Canva or Photoshop or illustrating skills, and make sure that they can video edit, because video is huge. But yeah, and then the tool to save time would be, along with batching the content, batch creating it, batch editing videos, batch recording videos. The scheduling software that I love to use, I actually have a blog post saying I don't like Hootsuite, but there's some clients I do use Hootsuite. So Hootsuite's back on my good side. I like Tailwind for Pinterest. I like SmarterQ as a good all-in-one. HubSpot's cool, but I've never used it personally. I've done their trainings before, but I've never actually used their CRM or their scheduling software. Another one is Buffer Later for Instagram and Twitter and all that. And then another one, Planoly, is really popular for Instagram. So any of those software where you can schedule it to where you don't have to post in real time is good. That way it's done. You pick the day of the week or the day of the month, and you really sit down with a Google Doc or something and you say, what are the one thing I want to talk about? And then break it up into bite-sized pieces. Something I learned from Karima, but I've been doing it for my clients too. Karima's on Clubhouse too. She's the owner of Dreamworth & Co. And that's something she preaches. You take one concept and you break it down to bite-sized pieces. For my audience, I really like to think of, one theme of the week. What's that one topic you want to cover? And then make the videos and the posts and the cute little stories that go with it, and the pins and all that. And the blog post too. Each week, it doesn't have to be a completely new concept each week. It can have an overall theme for the month, but then each week you're just going to make the content around that step or part of the process, or showing your projects, whatever. Like let's say it's a product launch, like an example, like a fashion brand, a new brand. Maybe week 1 would be all the tops. Maybe week 2 would be the dresses. Maybe week 3 would be the accessories. And then it all comes together at the end and say, oh, well, these are the different looks and the lookbooks and different ways to style it and the user generating content, stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that idea, doing an overarching theme for the month and then doing them each week by week. Is that something, do you have like an annual calendar that you work with, or do you start fresh each month?
Ooh, that's a good one. For myself, it's a little both, because I've been doing this off and on for 5 years for myself. I kind of know how my customer works. I know for what season their mindset's in. So then I really tap into that. And like, I can actually plan for a quarter. So that's what it really is. That's what I really do, like a quarter at a time. Now for my clients, it's new each month, where we have an overall theme for the month. And then each week we're just getting the customer further to the goal we want, which is, dollars and cents. Email signups, DMs, emails, those sort of things. Likes and follows are great, but with my clients, we're focused on, okay, how do we get them closer to doing what we want them to do? And I love what you mentioned earlier about Calendly. I do have some customers that use Calendly. I use Acuity. Nothing wrong with Calendly. I love it, but I use Acuity. That's what I use.
Okay, cool. So talking about getting people to the dollars and cents, I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want, because it doesn't really matter how many followers or how many likes you have. It really comes down to selling your product or service, or, gathering up those email lists so you can use that for marketing as well. What are some tips and tools that you've used to be able to create that transaction of dollars and cents rather than just the engagement?
I love that. So one thing I like to do is actually putting a call to action, saying in my posts that I want them to actually book a consultation. Like if I'm showing a website design post in a little square on Instagram, in the bottom, I'll say, a little bit about the project, and then, do you need help? Book a consultation. And I kind of say, click the link in my bio to book a consultation. Or I'll say, to learn more, send me a DM. I found that by doing that, it does generate more questions. It does generate more interaction and connection. And especially with a purchase that big, their website design, they do want to get to know you a little bit more. They might take a few DMs over a series of time, maybe a week, if not a month, DMing back and forth. And then they book a consultation. Then during the consultation, my consultations years ago used to be an hour long. Now they're only 15 and 30-minute slots. Because I've realized the questions I can get answered during that time are pretty vital to if we're going to be a good fit for each other. And then if it is a good fit, we move on to the next step, which would be a more in-depth consultation, depending on them. Usually, or not usually, but I've had some times where in the 15-minute consultation, they sign up for a website design like that. So yeah, it just depends on the client, how ready they are. But with our content, that's what we're doing. We're getting them ready to work with us or potentially work with us. We're getting them that information to decide on their own if we are who is right for them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I heard something recently from Brock Johnson who was saying that actual sales that you create should be happening in your DMs, not in your feed or not necessarily with the content you're creating. It's more about establishing that relationship. So I think that that is so true, that it's really tapping into that person one-on-one and making that connection where they like, know, and trust you, and then are willing to make that next step.
And I think that definitely ties in also to the other tool that I like to use for that connection off of the feed or off of DM is Flowdesk. I love it for my lead magnet delivery, my funnel, my just email blast or newsletter. I know newsletter is such an old term, but Flowdesk really makes it easy for you to set up the workflow and to segment your audience. And I can tell exactly where they came from based on, what I title the segment. And which freebie I put where. So that helps a lot too. To know, are they coming from Instagram? Are they coming from Pinterest? Are they coming from my website? That way I can focus more on that. But I would say also the email marketing does help as well, especially if you're consistent. And it's okay if you don't hear back from people. I've sent plenty of emails where it was crickets. You're like, I saw that these hundreds of people saw it. No one said anything. But it's funny because every few emails you will hear someone say something. And if it's a past customer on your list, they'll contact you for something else. It's funny how that works.
I think that's an interesting concept because I think a lot of times we get those emails in even as a customer ourselves and think, oh, well, it kind of feels like a one-way conversation unless they know you personally through other interactions. And then it can be this return customer, like you said, like it's keeping you top of mind and the experience they had with you. So that's a really good point about keeping that engagement there consistently.
Yeah, this year my goal was to really get more consistent with the email marketing. I think 2020 I might have sent like one, maybe two a month if I was feeling courageous. But this year I've started trying to get to like one a week. And I have one client that I actually do one a day for her. So yeah. Wow.
Building a successful business takes a clear understanding of your goals and where you want to go. That is why I love Cube Money. It is an app card combo that allows me to assign a purpose to each dollar in my checking account. No more wondering where you stand in regards to your bills because with each transaction, you make a mental check-in with your balance. Create goals and stick with them in your lifestyle and business so you can live more and stress less. Go to cubemoney.com/Camille to get started today. That's Cube spelled Qube money.com today and make those dreams a reality. So in your services, you're offering website design. Does that mean you're actually doing the back end work too, where it's like getting that all ready for launch? And then you're doing funnels, email marketing, and like product marketing? Are you doing all of those pieces? Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, it depends on the client and what we have. Not for all clients, I have to admit that. For a lot of them, I do. If they do get the website, I will help them set up their first emails in Flowdesk if they're new to that software. And that's the one I always recommend for them because it integrates with Shopify. And I don't know if it integrates with WordPress just yet. I know it doesn't integrate with Squarespace directly just yet, but it's super easy to use. It can make it pretty instead of with MailChimp, how you have to use Canva to make it pretty. I mean, don't get me wrong, MailChimp's come a long way since Flowdesk showed up, but MailChimp is still kind of behind. So for the all-in-one, for the customer that wants something that's easy to use, beautiful to look at, and can get them a high open rate, Flowdesk is good to go. And it's super affordable, $19 a month. No matter how many email subscribers you can have thousands on your list. It's still going to be $19 a month. So yeah, I help them get it set up. But if they're actually a retainer client, like a marketing retainer client, depending again on their package, they might get that. For example, one of my retainer clients, she gets for her different courses, we'll actually set up a different lead magnet and a different funnel. And then, like you said, the different emails that go out, and we're making sure, okay, is it going with what we're posting on social media? Does it make sense?
Oh, that sounds like such a time saver for brain power. That's something I think everyone needs, is that help. And I also love Flowdesk. I'll link to that in the show notes below, because it is so affordable and the format is so beautiful. Like it really has a very minimalistic kind of beautiful vibe about it. I really like it. So that's really awesome. I have just been so inspired by you, and that you've been able to persevere and push through as a single mom and still create the life of your dreams, like really chasing after it. What is a bit of advice? You have so much wealth of knowledge with as an entrepreneur and coming from so many entrepreneurs in your life. What is your advice for those who are listening and are looking for inspiration to keep going and really keep seeking after that something?
Sure. I think one of my best tips would be to start. Just start. It's going to be messy. It's going to be hard. It's going to be nerve-wracking. It's going to feel weird. It's going to make you nervous. It's going to be butterflies, but just start. I started my business, didn't have a launch, didn't tell my family and friends. It was very passive. I just put on Facebook one day and was like, oh, do you need a website? Do you need a logo? And I actually had someone I met on Twitter through another friend. He actually introduced me to my first logo design client. And then after that, I had a website design client that came from Facebook. Then he recommended me to another website design client. And then she recommended me to another website design client. And then, the rest is history. But yeah, I just had to start. And even before I actually had the agency, I had the blog first. So people could see the passion behind my interest in social media, my interest in design. But yeah, at first it was more social media. And then later on, I added in my tips about design, but it was mostly just social media, Instagram tips and Facebook tips, not really Twitter. Twitter wasn't really my jam. YouTube, Pinterest, yeah, a lot of Pinterest tips or tutorials or walkthroughs, teaching them about alt text, teaching them about SEO on the blog. That's what my business blog really started. The business blog 2015, then started the agency 2016. So that's a tip that I would give people too. Don't be afraid to start the blog first. It's okay if you don't have that much experience. You can get experience along the way. I'm thinking about now, like sometimes in my memory, I'll be like, I didn't do any free work, but yes, I did. I did do a little bit of free work, not too much, just a little bit. My very first two clients, one was a realtor, one was a guy that did text marketing, and they were generous enough to let me do their social media management and also to build them a website and to also, do their logos. And I'm grateful for that, because like I said, when you're in it all day, you forget where you started from. And then also when it comes to the YouTube branding for my Etsy shop, where I do offer a la carte bespoke design, custom designs, and some Canva templates too, but it's mostly custom designs people come there for their YouTube channel. I forget that my first YouTube banners were free. I went to Reddit. I know there was a lot of YouTubers on Reddit, and I said, hey, do you want a YouTube banner? The first 5 people, I'll make you a YouTube banner, because I wanted to see, can I even do it? Do I even like it? Because it was something I thought about, because in my mind, I was like, if I can make a website, I can make YouTube branding. It was like a no-brainer, but I just wanted to test out the concept. And 5 people did sign up. Some of the banners were really simple, just, a simple name and color background. And then this one for a gamer was so involved, so much photo editing. I had him tell me all his different video games, his favorite video games. And I literally found the characters from them and made him this beautiful banner. And he left me a review on Facebook. And yeah. I always forget about that. I would say, just, they don't have to, like I said, they don't have to do a million projects for free. They don't even have to do 2. They can just find one client to get experience, or a family or friend, I should say, to get experience, and then make their portfolio, share their prices. And another tip I would share, since I'm on your show, I would say that, especially with the busy mommies out there listening, I would say, don't be afraid to charge high starting out. What I've learned the hard way is it's harder to raise your price than it is to lower your price. And that's something I knew from Nordstrom. Like, they teach us to offer the highest price item first, so that people, when you show them something less, they think they're losing something. So it's funny how in my own business, it was opposite, but yeah, that's what I would say. Don't be afraid to charge very good prices from the beginning, even if you have little experience. That's something I've learned recently that I wish I knew 5 years ago.
That's really good advice. I think a lot of times there's perceived value that happens even with that exchange of money where people are committing to that and they think, oh, like this girl is serious and she's taking herself seriously. And so it's not so much, I think it's that fear of just asking, and once you get past that, it's the sky's the limit. Like it's just really so much potential is available.
Exactly. I agree.
Well, it has been so inspiring to talk with you today. And as someone who is very much in the middle of content creation all of the time, I want to hire you. Like just listening to everything you do, like that's incredible. So I am just one more piece of a nugget or wisdom that you'd like to share as a mom, as a single mom. What is one way that you've been able to create a positive relationship of creating your own business in relationship with your daughter? Because I know that you said that she's like your little assistant and she's very much a part of it and is proud of you with that. So what has that been like for you as a mom?
Oh, that's such a great question. In the very beginning, I started my business out of my mom's dining room, basically her dining room and Starbucks. I went to move back home with my mom to save up for a house. Everyone's story when they moved back home. Anyway, so I was there for 2 years and my daughter was with me. And I remember those first few days when I would be talking to a client, but then remember I told you it was like I was on vacation. So I had her with me a lot and she came with me a lot. She never met those first few clients, but yeah, she didn't. No, I take that back. She did meet the logo client because they were an ice cream shop. So she came in when the deal was done and she tried their ice cream, but she never met the 2 lawyer clients or the clients after that. But she was little, so she was there with me a lot. Like she wasn't even 3 years old back then. So she was there with me a lot and they saw her on video and stuff like that. And they'd always ask about her because she was so little at the time, kind of like a baby still. So I was very fortunate to have my mom as that support system, that she was willing to watch me when I went to meetings, watch the baby while I went to meetings. She was able to watch the baby when I was trying to finish a website. A lot of late nights, I will say that. Mm-hmm. Back then, yeah. I was definitely a night owl where I would stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning designing. Now these days, nope, I'm not going to do it. I give myself sleep unless there's a tight deadline, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, that's how I try to balance. And now, with the time blocking, I try to have my weekends with her. I try to unplug when it comes to meal times in my house. No phones, no TV, no computer, no iPad, which is hard for us sometimes to remember. But I get that quality time with her. Even though she's in virtual school, I'm in my former living room now, which is an office. But then my dining room's across the way and I can see what she's doing. I can hear the teacher. There's been plenty of times, especially when she started virtual school, where I would have my computer here and her computer there, and we were side by side. So I was designing or answering emails and looking over at her. I felt like I went to first grade again too. But yeah, that's how I balance the motherhood and business. And then also there's plenty of times, like I had a YouTube branding project earlier today for a little girl's YouTube channel, Sisters. 1, 2.5, 1, 6. And I asked Bella, I said, what do you think? She said, I like it. And I said, do you want one? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, do you want a cartoon like theirs? She said, no. I said, why not? One of her favorite YouTubers is this girl named Tiana that's over in the UK. And she's like, I said, well, Tiana has a cartoon. And she said, no, I don't want a cartoon. She's like, Tiana's different. She has 4 channels. I was like, okay, Bella. But yeah, Bella definitely gives her 2 cents. And she makes a lot of guest appearances on my TikTok, my Instagram. Bella's very much a part of my business. Very much.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, it's been so much fun talking with you today. Thank you for sharing your time and all your wisdom with us. Please let the audience know where they can connect with you online.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at ePartnersMarketing. My podcast is thecontentcure.co on Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, all the platforms. So that's where they can connect with me. And then ePartnersMarketing.com has my marketing design blog, and that's where you can book a consultation. Thank you so much, Camille. I've really enjoyed this time.
Oh, awesome. It's been so great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Call Me CEO. If you found it helpful or inspiring, I would love it if you shared it with a friend. And also, I would love it if you came and joined me on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast, where you can join other like-minded mamas like you who are looking to step up in their lives and make it even better. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week.